Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, happy Asian Heritage Month. My name is Michelle Yu. I'm one of the board members here, and I'm really excited to have our inaugural career education talk here for AAPI month. And of course, here at APITA, we celebrate Asian Heritage Month and celebrate the community of AAPI through the lens of sport, where there is resilience, there is community, and there is just a lot of support system on and off the court. And we have an esteemed panel today to talk a little bit about the different careers that there are in tennis and basically how tennis has really shaped us, helped us, and really been an amazing support system for our life. And so once again, my name is Michelle Yu. I will be your host for this panel. I myself am a journalist, I'm a broadcaster, and I've been involved in tennis for quite a while. I was a walk-on in college. And I have now been working tournaments where I announce and do post-match interviews and really get to kind of be an inspiration to Asian American journalists who want to be in tennis or in sports. So I've been really fortunate to have this kind of path and have Asian leaders to look up to help me be where I am. And with that being said, I would like to introduce our great panel today. We have four great panelists here today. I'm going to start with Christine Stromberg. Christine, give a wave. Christine is a USTA leader, and she's the director of US Open Player Services. So she's going to have a lot to tell us, a lot to share with us about her journey. And also joining us today is Ryan Redondo. He is the CEO of Youth Tennis San Diego, and you can find him at the Barnes Center in San Diego, inspiring the next generation of youth in tennis. And also, we have a doctor in the house. We are AAPI, of course. We always have a doctor somewhere around and close by, right? We have Dr. Alexis Colvin. She is a Mount Sinai professor and also the US Open Chief Medical Officer. And last but certainly not least, we have Andi Chu. She is a sports tech executive and a former Tennis Channel leader. And it is such an honor to have all of you on this panel today as we celebrate AAPI month. And before we move forward, I just want to take a moment and go around the panel now and just have you guys introduce yourselves in detail a little bit. Tell us what exactly you do in tennis and how you've been inspired by the sport. And before I start with one of you guys, this session is being recorded. And if you don't want to be on camera, you can mute it. However, we all want to see you. So thank you. Welcome joining us here. So we're excited to have you. So we want to see your faces, but we are recording this session. So with that being said, everything is now on the record. Christine, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first and have you kick things off.
Well, great. Thanks, Michelle. Excited to be here in this forum. Do a lot of things working with students and just kind of being able to talk and help kind of pay. I feel like I've had some incredible people that I have to work with, both part of the AAPI community as well as other mentors. Alexis is the one that got me into this group. So excited to be on the panel with her. So my career journey started where people's did. I was 6 or 7 years tennis on TV, wanted to play. Fast forward a lot of years, USTA juniors, played collegiately, and actually wanted to work in the sports industry, but wasn't. This was where I wanted to end up. Tennis found a way to reel me back in. Started my career in college athletics, working at the University of Illinois for their tennis, both on the community side as well collegiate side, which was really fun. That facility was owned and operated by the government, but also open to the community. So we had a really great mix of bringing athletes. We had challengers, college matches, we had kids playing, and so it was really great to get a chance to see all sides of tennis. And that's really where I actually kind of with the industry. I always loved the sport. I love, and then from there, ultimately opportunity to come and join the U.S. Open team later, and now I've been with the USTA for 10 years, 8 U.S. Opens, and I oversee from lock practice, everything kind of that a player experience that's not their matches. I let the referees, competition team take over that part, but kind of the fun dealing with players, their families, their coaches, really trying to provide them with their best experience that they can have the U.S. Open. And it's been a lot of fun to get a chance to work to the team, kind of start at one level in a way, to now lead the team, and opportunity to bring in a lot of people to help us service all those areas. So I cannot do it by myself. I have an incredible as well that really helped to provide this, which are all things that are open to anyone that's looking to get into the industry. So I have to put in there. Currently hiring for U.S. Open player up. But it's fantastic, and it's just really full circle to have a sport has really impacted my life to be able to now come, not on the court, not able to obviously make it to that level, but to be able to give back that I can to the community.
Thank you so much for that, Christine. And I know you mentioned Alexis, so I'm gonna have a smooth transition here and have Alexis talk about her journey.
Hi, I'm Alexis Colvin. I'm a sports medicine doctor in New York and also the chief medical officer of the US Open. I guess I like to think of my position or my frame of reference for this talk as, not everybody needs to do the whole path of medical school and all that stuff to work in sports medicine and tennis. There's a lot of different paths that we can talk about. But when you're training, the sports that everyone wants to take care of in the US are football and basketball because they're collision sports. People are hitting each other, they're injuries, and there's something you can do. And so when I started practice, they were looking for someone to join the team at the US Open. So my first US Open actually was 2009. I was actually like 9 months pregnant. And my son was born on September 21st. So literally like almost about to deliver on the court. But after that, I then became the team physician for the U.S. Fed Cup team, which is now the Billie Jean King Cup team. And I think for me, what's been so fantastic is that, like I said, during training, tennis is a very, very specific sport in the U.S. We don't, people who are in it don't necessarily think about that because, you're in it. But the amazing thing to me is that it really opened my eyes in terms of what incredible athletes they are. And I really loved the international community and that there was, women who were equally as well represented as men. And, I think it says a lot that, still traditionally people want to be a doctor for football or basketball, but, that tennis has just been, for me, not being a player, I definitely did not get into college based on my tennis skills. So being able to, work in the medical space with tennis, I think not just in terms of a knowledge base because the injuries are so different from other sports, but also just in terms of a career path, which we can talk a little bit more about later.
Thank you, Alexis. Andi?
Hey everyone, I'm Andi Chu, and it's nice to have everyone in this room today. I'm originally from Toronto, and I moved to LA. And I moved to LA to get into feature film and TV production and development. So I spent a lot of years working at different studios. I started at Fox, Paramount, and a few others. And then when the whole digital evolution took off, I was the first one who bailed on traditional TV and film, and I moved straight into social and digital. And so when I joined the WTA, I moved from LA to London, and I hopped on the crazy train and was touring around the world about 250 days a year with the players, building the WTA's digital and social and video departments. It was really new for the tour at the time. They just didn't have anything like this. And so it was a lot of educating the players as well on why they need direct communications and engagement with their fans and setting up everyone's profile to what everyone now knows. It's digital and social. And so I went from being a mid-level executive there to leading the entire content operations at WTA, and then moved back to LA to work at the Tennis Channel, where I started their whole digital infrastructure around websites, mobile, streaming, fast, OTT, and all their direct-to-consumer products as well, along with social and their production teams too. And now I'm consulting and doing a lot of leadership roles for different organizations. Some are in the entertainment space and also in the AI tech wellness space, and also one in tennis coming up.
I feel a stay tuned from Andi.
There's
So
a
we're
wink
looking
here.
forward. Yes, there's a wink and a stay tuned. I love that. Last but certainly not least, Ryan, go for it.
Awesome. Well, my name is Ryan Redondo. I'm from San Diego, California, and a proud member of the Filipino American community. I don't know where, I can't go back as far as probably 1 or 2 years old in the sport. So I was literally born into the sport. I know nothing but tennis. My father was the head coach at San Diego State when I was born, and I grew up on the courts. And so my background in the sport has really been at all levels of the sport. I've been very fortunate to be a player. I got to play in college tennis. I played at Pepperdine and San Diego State. I then started coaching Division I college tennis for about 15 years. And now in my current role as CEO of Youth Tennis San Diego, where we go out into the city and we have partnerships with the City of San Diego Parks and Rec and the San Diego Unified School District, where we teach tennis and some academic programming to underserved children. And so we serve thousands of kids. We also own and operate the Barnes Tennis Center, which is really for me, I've been able to be really intricately a part of every part of the game since 2020, from teaching kids at schools to running WTA tournaments, ATP tournaments, ITF events, to even being invited to the Wimbledon Ball from a former player that won the mixed doubles last year. So I've been really, really fortunate in my life to be able to be a part of the whole sport.
That's fantastic. I want to dive into a little bit about, being a tennis professional now in whatever space that we are in. I want us to kind of discuss if there was a specific moment in your career when you became acutely aware of your AAPI identity. Do you think that helped you? Do you think that gave you an edge? What are your thoughts on that? And I will start with Ryan again.
Um, so I think when I became acutely aware, there were different stages in my life. So even as a junior tennis player, when I realized, hey, maybe I'm the first Filipino, right, to play on the U.S. national team in X amount of years, or just the fact that there were only a handful of us that were, representing the U.S. at that time, where it just, that helped bring a sense of pride, like, oh, I get to represent in that sense. I got to play German league, and I made the front page of the German newspaper, and it was Ryan Redondo, Mexican, and next to my name, and that kind of hit me at 19 years old, 20 years old, like, oh, I'm not Mexican, and they missed out that I'm American, but also this Asian background. And then going into my professional career, I know I've sat, my first big Division I job, going into the interview, it was a all white, board that I sat and interviewed with, that I started to become aware of my color and just my culture in that sense. And that's kind of led throughout my career where I've been able to notice that. And especially in the tennis space, which has been a very predominantly white male space, you just, at least for me, I noticed that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Andi, I'm going to go to you now because when we first met, I think you were moving on from the WTA to Tennis Channel, and you became the vice president of that division of where you took care of all the social stuff. And I think that was really impressive to me because the Tennis Channel, when you look at it, is predominantly a very white company. And when I see you as one of the C-suite executives, I was very impressed. I was like, go Andi. But at the same time, I want to know how it felt to be you. Did you feel empowered that you were Asian? Did you feel a little inferior that you were Asian? What were your initial thoughts?
I think by that point in my career, I'd had enough time and experience to be able to embrace it and be able to lead and be really proud of it. But I definitely knew that I was stepping into a world that was a lot of white men in the boardroom. For me, when Tennis Channel was acquired, when I first stepped in there, and it was the first time they were acquired, so they had to put on their, you know, a big boots and start like actually walking the walk and performing. And so I was hired to turn a singular linear television network into a multi-platform content business. And the channel at the time when I stepped in, it was their demo was predominantly white, as you can imagine, male, affluent, and their demo audience was 60 plus. And so my trajectory and my goal was to also bring in younger audiences and more diverse audiences. And so that was definitely a big part of my career trajectory there.
Yeah, it was very impressive to see. And Alexis, now that you are the doctor to the tennis stars, we often see you on television. We often see the presence, the representation that you are giving to us Asians out there in tennis, and it's really wonderful to see. Can you speak a little bit about that? Do you feel that you are representing in such a way that that it really is showing that representation matters, especially in tennis?
Yeah, so I know it's not that unusual to be an Asian doctor, but as an orthopedic surgeon, I will say Asian American women, they're 1% of all practicing orthopedic surgeons in the United States. So there's not a lot of us in this particular specialty. And so when I started my training, there were 60 trainees, and I was one of 4 women, and there was definitely no other Asian American woman in that group. And so I think I always knew I was different, but it was actually probably more the female part than the Asian part. I think to me, I think when I first realized like, hey, this is actually a superpower was being at the Open and speaking Chinese with the players that came in, and the WTA physios were like, we have no one that can speak Chinese, and this is amazing. And so, and I think even the players were very appreciative that there was someone that they could communicate with. And so I think on a personal level, to me, that's like probably been one of the most gratifying things. We went to Shenzhen last fall for the BJK Cup finals, and that's interesting because I grew up in the U.S. and I know that they don't look at me as Chinese. That's probably a whole nother panel. But I think it's become like a superpower to me. I think just because, again, like I said, there's the how international tennis is. And then just to your point about, I think anytime there's an Asian American doing anything in something as visible as tennis, whether you're a player or support team, I think yes, it definitely is an amazing thing.
Yeah, I think it's such an amazing point that you brought up. Now it's a superpower because we have so much in our arsenal. We can speak. We are, represented really great. And this transitions into my question to Christine. Being that you're around players all the time in player services, how do you find that as an advantage and to represent AAPI?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a gift to be able to be in a profession where you just experience all these other cultures. And so even for me, my mom, I'm really close to my mom. My mom was born in China, but my dad was not. So obviously you can look at me, you can look at my name and not really see that. And I think that's a big piece of it, is that there's so many people from different parts of the world, and just that everybody has a story, and to be able to connect with players and everybody, that at the end of the day, we're all people. And I think that's something, when we provide the service, it's that like we actually are just trying to do it as people and have an understanding. And so I think just having a different background, having, again, even just two different sides of one half of my family acts very in one kind of traditional way and the other half in a different way. And so even to be able to have that experience and dealing with different players in different ways from different parts of the world, I think has been something that I obviously never would have expected, that would be kind of just a byproduct of the way that I was raised.
Yeah, and I think as an Asian community, we've certainly come a very long way, and I think it comes from just one voice coming together, doing panels like this, and supporting one another. And it's been wonderful to see the evolution and progression of Asians in leadership roles nowadays. And I think each of us are in some sort of leadership role now, and I know a lot of us who are on this Zoom talk want to be in that leadership role one day. So, being that we have such a great panel of leaders, I want to go around the panel and ask, what does it take for an Asian American to be in a leadership role, own it, and really embrace it? Alexis, I'm going to start with you this time.
I would say, yes, I completely agree with you in terms of the AAPI community supporting each other. But I would say because I wouldn't say it's like been relatively new since Asians are in power positions, but it's been trending. I would say most of my supporters or big mentors and stuff actually have not been Asian, and I think that's an important thing just to keep in mind that you can find people to support and promote you everywhere. And like as an example, I know for Christine as well, like Stacey Allister, who had been at the WTA and then the U.S. Open chief tournament officer, has been such a great supporter. And yeah, I think I think you have your community to look at, and then also all the other people as well.
Christine.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things to be learned just from the community. One thing that I feel like I've found is there's a lot of parts about kind of the way that I was raised from like respecting people that's maybe a little bit different. But I also think that there's always been, at least again, in my personal experience, a very work hard. And if things don't go your way, work harder. And I think in a leadership role, it's actually very different. It's a lot less, I've kind of over the course of the last few years gone from someone who was in an individual contributor situation, and that really paid off. Like that work ethic of just the way that my mom and my grandparents were just like, you just work harder. And it always worked on court. But it's very different when you're leading people, and just how you showcase your work. I think the modesty of you just kind of are part of the group and you play your part is very different when you're trying to kind of take the next step into that leadership role, and you have to maybe get outside your comfort zone and showcase what your work is, as opposed to just kind of head down and do your work, which I think, at least for me, was a little bit of a transition period going into that leadership type role.
Andi.
I've lost plot of the question, listening to everybody's great answers. But along the line of what Christine was saying, I definitely think like there's a lot of generational mindsets too. And that played a big factor as I was like moving up. I think like a lot of AAPI professionals, right? You're like raised on the idea that don't quit, like work really hard, don't complain, figure it out, people please, don't be too loud, all of these things. And I think for me that it was always kind of in the back of my head as I was moving up, but gaining confidence, but also finding like support groups and people, whether they're AAPI or not, but people you can connect with, finding mentors, supporters, people advocate for you if you're not the loudest in the room. I think that really helped every single step of my career.
Ryan, what do you think makes a great leader?
Well, it makes a great leader, but specifically to AAPI, I would say, piggybacking on what Andi said, I think as Asian Americans, it's ingrained in us to be very resilient, to fight, to have grit. All the things that she said, I totally agree with. I think what it comes down to is value. I think it's taking yourself out of fitting in into how am I adding value, and then
Did we lose him? We may have lost him. Okay. Well, we hope he comes back. And did we lose Christine as well? We have technical difficulties here sometimes on the Zoom virtual talk. Wait, is he back?
Yeah, I got kicked off there.
Yeah, okay, perfect. You were mid-sentence. We were all like anxiously waiting, and there
Um,
you are. But go ahead,
Yeah,
finish
I
your
think
thought.
I think I left off with it's adding value. Where do you add value? And I think, to this panel and talking about tennis, that's the beautiful thing about the sport of tennis is that we individually, regardless of where you come from, you learn through tennis of how to be resilient. You learn through tennis how to push yourself to regrow yourself. And that's my viewpoint and how I look at myself. How can I step into a role, add value? I think I was talking to Vanya King about this before a couple years ago. I think I'm the only AAPI tournament director that's run an ATP or WTA event of a significant level. That's got to change. So I have to come in and add a ton of value. I've got to show that it's me, it's our community that we can run these things as well, right? And then I will be an example for others. So to answer your question, tennis adds value, and we can always grow and develop that. And I hope that's what people learn from it.
That is amazing, and big kudos. I did not know that you were the only Asian American tournament director out there. So that
I mean, obviously in North America,
yes, in North
and
America,
in
yeah.
Asia there
So
are, but
that's wonderful.
yeah, at that level, I don't think there are.
Fantastic. Well, I want to ask you guys now, where do you think there's most opportunity for AAPI professionals in tennis? I know that a lot of us played, maybe not professionally, but played in college. What if someone said, I want to now be in the tennis space and one day be like a Ryan Redondo, one day be like Andi Chu, a Christine, a Dr. Colvin. How do we get there in the sense, do we network, with AAPI professionals within the industry? Where is there more value in space where we can take advantage of? Andi, what do you think?
Yeah, I know when I was building teams both at WTA and Tennis Channel, like there were a lot of people that I hired because of their natural passion for tennis. They came from tennis, they played tennis. The other half I would hire just for skills purely, who might not have known anything about tennis. And I can say that because I didn't play tennis growing up. Well, actually, no, I played recreationally, and I thought by osmosis I would suddenly like be Serena on the court, which never happened. And so like I know like for me to learn the sport, which as everyone knows here, it's a difficult sport to learn with lots of players and tournaments. But I was able to do it. And so you have to look at people who have those skills and strengths, regardless if they know tennis or don't know tennis. So I think right now, like looking in those other pockets and spaces, like I was floored when I really got to know what tennis was like and how many, especially touring around all the different tournaments and players and how big the players teams are too. And looking at sponsorships and partnerships and the business side of tennis. I think sports business for sure has a lot of different areas for you to get into if that's something you're into. There's also like SaaS companies, like software as a solution, a lot of sports and tech coming up. Obviously, because I'm very digital focused, AI for sure, and how that's going to play with both the sports and the fitness space, and new technologies are going to pop up in these areas. I also think like niche, a lot of like niche areas. Like I also worked at a tennis channel. We started pickleball TV as our side hustle. And so I think like other racket sports, there's other tennis and other racket sports coming up right now that are really big. So other niche sports too. And yeah, I think there's a lot of innovation and new startups and new creators. And I mean, the world is changing, right? Especially with all the technology. So I would start there.
Christine, if a young individual came up and said, I want to be the next director of player services, how do you tell them to get there?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I plugged it a little earlier. The first thing I would tell them to do is, to apply to be on the team and work at the US Open. But I think just overall, I spend a lot of time going and speaking in different classes at different universities. Whenever I'm at a tournament, I find a university that has a sports management program and I offer to just come and talk to them. And I think a little bit to what Alexis was saying earlier, everybody wants, even in this, just the general sports management world, not even talking specific to AAPI, then we have to kind of subset it a little more. They think that working in sports is the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, the big sports, USOPC. And so even when I go and I tell them that the US Open is the largest annually attended sporting event in the US, they're like, no way. And I'm like, yeah, we had 1 million people there last year. And they're like, oh, like they don't even know if they're not in New York, if they're not a tennis person. So I think even just broadening their horizons to tennis, to then explaining to them that we have 550 pro players, 850 total players from over 100 countries, and just starting to dive into some of the numbers of what makes tennis unique, to just even bring the general kind of workforce in, and then doing, other things to maybe do a little bit more outreach of just showing what it is, what the industry even looks like. If I'm being quite frank, I didn't know my job was a job until I got a phone call saying, hey, can you come work on the team? So, and I was working in tennis. I was working in college athletics. So it's just, I think a lot of parts of tennis are real specific, and we need to do a little bit better job maybe of the outreach and making people aware by doing things like this.
Alexis.
Yeah, along those lines, I think when we're looking at what skills, definitely there's a need for athletic trainers, for strength and conditioning coaches, and definitely with a tennis background. We're always looking for that skill set. And I think the nice thing about that is that not only do you have something that you can do, it's a portable skill, but you can expand it in so many ways. Like you can open your own clinic, or you could move up and work with a player. So I think Andy's point about having a skill is and then bringing the tennis background with it. That's what's going to help you get the job.
Ryan.
Can you ask the question again?
I know we've gone through. Where do you find, like, what would you tell someone who came up to you and said, I want to get into tennis and I want to have a leadership role like you one day. How do I get there? What would you tell them? What advice would you say?
Oh gosh. Well, if we're talking about the PITA board, I think what they're doing and the organization is exactly what needs to happen for change to happen, so that somebody doesn't have to come up to me and ask that question, and they just understand that this is an opportunity for everybody. And I think that's what APITA is really going to be adding value to into the tennis ecosystem. In regard to this, if somebody were to ask me that and they want to get into the tennis industry, I think Andy said it really well. It's way more than just hitting tennis balls. And there are so many different things that you can do, and the ecosystem in the industry is so vast now, and it's so global. What I would say, my own personal background is service, volunteer, get yourself involved. And when you start to open some doors, other doors open, but it really starts at serving. And I think that, no pun intended, tennis and serving they go hand in hand. You have to serve, even as a CEO or a leader, you're serving, you're giving your time. And I think that's what helps get people to recognize you.
Very well said. Now I want to later in a few minutes just open it up to some questions for anyone that has any questions for the panelists. But before we do that, I want to end and wrap up with this topic of conversation. I think this goes beyond tennis. I think Asians were raised in a way where we all were told to just work hard and keep your head down, earn money, and don't make waves. But I think now with what we're doing, that's not the right way to go about this. I think for our voice to be heard, we do need to make waves, and we do need to be heard. And with that being said, sometimes there's a fine line being an Asian American, because you don't want to be flashy. You want to be humble at the end of the day, because that part of your parents telling you being humble is always there. But branding yourself is actually a very important thing. And I think now in this day and age, it's not about bragging. I don't think that that's the word we should use. It's to be really excited about representing who you are and representing yourself and your own brand. And I want to go around the panel and ask about that because sometimes, like, for example, people tell me you need to post more interviews of yourself doing, and sometimes I feel, well, I don't think anyone wants to see more of me interviewing someone. They're just going to think that I'm bragging that, I just sat down with Yannick Sinner. Well, no, because that's your brand. That is your resume. That is what people see, and that is how you are going to get your next job. So I have a constant battle with myself as a journalist because I don't know what is the fine balance. Now, for you guys, what would you say is a good branding tool for yourselves in the space that you do? Christine, I'm going to go back to you now.
Well, I think I'm kind of similar in that way. Social media, LinkedIn, that's not where you're going to find me. And I get told that a lot. You don't share what you're doing. You were just at an event, you just did this. And it's like, well, I did my job. My job was to do the job. My job is not to tell everybody what my job is. But I also think I've picked in a lot of ways an area in which, like, working in operations, the goal is really to make it be seamless with nobody knowing that you're there. So I think I kind of I branded myself a little bit, but it is challenging, in that when we talked about leadership, my brand really is kind of, I get things done. And it's not, I don't go and tell people about it. And it's actually been a struggle for me, if I'm being perfectly honest, about kind of what that looks like, what it is next. And, internally it's great. And the people that I work with know that, but I've never been the person to go out there and kind of build that brand in the social media sphere. So I'm actually looking forward to hearing what everybody else says. Maybe I can take a few tips.
Yes, I'm curious. Andi.
Yeah, I agree with both of you, I think it's also part of our upbringing and culture and heritage again. Going from minimizing to claiming that brand of yours and that voice. I think part of it is just by doing, and hopefully your work, like Ryan spoke about value. So hopefully that comes back into play. But I'm sure for a lot of people on here, your brand is, like Christine said, is getting it done and figuring it out and just doing things. So I've spent a lot of time building athletes, businesses, companies, brands, marketing, building platforms. But I hope some of that, the brand is just, knowing that you do good work, and that will be loud enough.
Alexis.
Yeah, similar to what Christine said, the best US Open is when nobody makes any mention of any medical problems that happened. So, I don't want to be talking, but I would say, what surprised me a little bit, because I think I'm the same way, I don't like posting on social media, is I have gotten outreach from younger people, and to me that's actually what the point of it is to have, it's such a cliche statement now, but if you can't see it, you can't be it. But I think that the younger generation these days is a lot more, there's just so much more ability to reach out to people, and those barriers are down. And so if they if they see you posted something that's interesting and they reach out to you, to me that's actually been the one positive, I think, of posting things.
Yes. Ryan.
Yeah, I love this topic. I was a religious studies major academically, and so there's a term for that. It's called filial piety, and it's in the Asian community where your elders, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, you look up to them, what they say you do, right? And you put your head down, you get to work, you don't complain, you do what you're told. I think that's a beautiful thing in our culture, because of what everybody's saying, like the value that we can bring and what we do bring to leadership roles in sport, in tennis, is that, we will work, we will bring a lot of value and humbleness that is required in a real strong leader, I think. Because when we go to branding, and if it's about you or your ego, people see through that. And I think that filial piety is going back to, I think Alexis said, it's a superpower. And it's a value that we're just ingrained in our culture for decades and years, right? So I think it's a really, really cool, beautiful thing. And, in regard to the branding, I feel like my role as CEO of a nonprofit, we're an NJTL chapter, and my whole role is service. So a lot of it's fundraising, a lot of it's building programs, a lot of it's networking with city officials. So I need to show what we're doing. So I'm constantly posting now. I had a boss mentor of mine that said to me once, Ryan, you're not, you have to brag. You actually have to do those kind of things. It's your right. You did it. You've got to show people. And that's where we are now. And so I've been able to do that. And it's gotten me to a point where I'm not just in the role of tennis. I'm in these other sports. I'm, in the entrepreneurial kind of world now, and branding it's where we are.
I totally agree with that. I think we've evolved in the sense that we have to be proud of what we are and what we do. And instead of thinking of as bragging, I think we should own it and say, this is what we do and be confident about it. And I think that's the only way that we encourage the next generation, that, you have to be proud of what you're doing and continue good work. As Andi says, hard work speaks for itself. And that is the baseline. I think we need to continue with that and then build on our own being confident in our own space. And so with that, I would love to open it up now to anyone who has any other topics that they want to discuss, questions. I thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you have enjoyed this discussion, but it's not over, and I'd love to talk more. So if anyone else wants to ask a question, please unmute and introduce yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
You have a question? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah,
Thank you for joining us.
my name is Michael. I'm I'm with the RSPA, and also USTA. I'm on a Asian American. I'm the chair of the Asian American for the RSPA chair, and I'm also on the USTA DEI committee. And I just had a question regarding DE and I, how it's like kind of a polarizing issue. I don't know if you've had any pushback on it. I mean, if you watch the news, I don't want to name any political party or what's going on with the media, and some schools and some companies are cutting it back. I know the USTA is really going still going for it, and also RSPA is really involved. But do you find any pushback, or like, do we continue to go? It's like when I got involved a couple of years ago, it was really good, but then everything started changing a little bit, and I feel like the atmosphere for that is there's kind of a little bit of pushback from what I'm seeing for some parents that I teach some kids. And so what do you guys are into the industry and the like media industry and like the corporate world, how do you feel about that?
Can I take that? Can I start?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I love that you did that. I used to be the chair of the DEI committee for USTA SoCal too, and it's really important that we have people that are still gathering other individuals that see meaning in that. So I think tennis, when you look at tennis in the United States, um, it's very Asian, right? I can tell you right now, if I'm in my office here at Barnes, if we were to go out, it's a very Asian centric sport. Actually, there's a lot of people, and the media that I'm seeing, and I can just use the USTA or USA SoCal, is you see it everywhere. You see Asian American, Pacific Islanders marketed, and so in regard to, without being political, I think that um, we are seeing the mass and the marketing and the branding of what we look like. Tennis is what we look like. And we are a very diverse country. That's the beauty of America. And we see it in the marketing and the branding, to your point. Um, in my role, I think we serve thousands and thousands of kids. We have around 400,000 people that come through Barnes itself, extremely diverse. And there isn't that tokenism around here, at least. And that's not what I'm seeing, is that we are all a part of this. We have people in leadership roles. And so I think we're progressing. I think there's a lot of, as I said earlier in my one of my answers, we have a long ways to go in representation, but people and individuals and industry leaders in the AAPI community are certainly pushing forward, in my perspective.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Michael, and thank you for that answer, Ryan. Anyone else?
I can go next. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hello? Oh, yes. Hi. Okay. Hi. My name is Luisa, and I am someone aspiring to go into the tennis industry. And I actually had a question for Christine. And so as someone figuring out how to break into this, when you were starting out, what were some skills and strengths that you saw in yourself that help you out and then get to the role that you are now? And right now that AI is huge and technology and all that. So wanted to see if you could expand on that and see what else I should kind of be more knowledgeable in so I can stand out a little more.
Yeah, happy to answer that question. I think from the beginning, working kind of in tennis and the operation side, just being willing to do the work. There's a lot of less than fun work on the operation side. And there's also a lot of really rewarding things. And it's kind of taking both of them, raising your hand, being willing to take on projects that maybe you aren't 100% sure how to do. I think that's a little bit where this generation of AI and the internet, AI is great as long as it's kind of monitored by people. So you can learn how to do so many things on the internet. So, taking chances, saying yes to things, volunteering, and it was definitely a big piece of it. But I think, also for what I do, so much of what we do is one-on-one service. And I think Ryan spoke to the service element. In this industry, a lot of it is dealing with people, and people skills and communication are things that kind of can't necessarily always be replaced by AI or things happening in that space.
Can I just
Okay.
add, since
And one more question, actually. So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as someone who's like personally worked with Christine for so many years, I would definitely say yes. The people skills is a huge asset. But I literally have never heard her say the word no. She just makes it happen, and so I think the hard work and part of whatever that really can't be overemphasized.
Perfect. That's awesome. And one more question that just came up. So you mentioned something about how outreach together that even improving this
Luisa, we're
useful
losing
and
you a little bit. Can you repeat your question? We just lost you a little bit. Did we lose her overall?
Looks like it. Maybe she can type it in the chat when she comes back on.
Yes, maybe she can type it in the chat. In the meantime, does
I
anyone
have a
else?
question.
Yes, hello.
I am Suji Park, and I am Korean American, and how I'm tied to tennis is I still play. And so I captained a team for Metro here in Eastern. I'm also the first Asian American president of the Barnard College Alumni Association, and I'm on the board of trustees. And so I I get, from the panelists, being Asian American and being kind of the first in leadership. So I wanted to just plug in also that Kathleen Wu, who is the USTA Foundation president, is on the board of trustees with me at Barnard College, and got to meet Vanya and then got to meet Ryan. I also support Columbia women's tennis and Columbia men's tennis as well. So, and on the Columbia women's tennis team, there's a freshman Barnard player who actually trained with Ryan. And so it's like a small world, how if you stay in long enough, the connections are there. And I'm going to just shamelessly try to plug in for my seniors who are graduating or my juniors who may want Asian American women who may want internships with Andi or Christine or Alexis. I mean, I think for me, paying it forward is like the best, because somebody was there to help lend a hand. and mentoring and advising. And so, like, are those possibilities? Michelle, you as well. So, getting a strong, capable Asian American who wants to go in that field to even have like a 30-minute conversation. So that's kind of my question. And I am someone, just to go back to the being humble, and I've been like, okay, maybe it's the Barnard in me, bold, brilliant, beautiful. And I say it without saying just. And I do a lot of social media because just now, like, the loudest voice is what's heard. And so I really do encourage that, if it's not just about you, it's your organization or what you stand for. And we need so much more of that positivity versus all of the negativity that's going around. So I really encourage all of you who are doing amazing things to be out there.
What amazing comments by you. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think you're completely right. Do need to be bold. We need to really have a good voice out there to support one another and obviously support ourselves. And with that being said, internships, I would divert over to Christine. I mean, I've been wanting an internship with the Player Services for years now, Christine. So maybe you can help all of us.
Just, I'll say it now. Find me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk to anybody who finds me on LinkedIn. Michelle, you can come our way anytime.
Yes. And, Suji, if anyone wants to get into journalism, they can also find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to talk to anyone. Being an Asian American female sportscaster, I actually was the very first Asian American female sportscaster in New York City. So I think that's a whole other panel to talk about all the uphill battles that I have been through, but I am happy to foster to talk to young Asian American aspiring journalists out there. So please come find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm happy to talk to them.
Yeah, LinkedIn for me also.
I think same.
Perfect. Well, we are almost. Oh, Luisa is back. Hello. We lost you for a little bit. I
Yes,
know
I
you had a
got kicked
question.
out.
Yeah,
Yes,
perfect.
I got kicked out.
Well, you're back in, and we
Yeah,
would love
I could finish
to
my
have you
question.
finish your question to end this panel.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. So, I mean, this could apply for anybody, honestly, too. I just came up with the question because Christine kind of touched on it, but anybody can answer as well. What have been ways in terms of outreach to communities to try to bring them together and know this sport of tennis, especially Christine touching on like, oh, people don't know about the US Open. So how do you bring, in this day and time with new technology and new trends, what have been like the best ways to bring outreach to people, whether it's for the US Open or just tournaments going to junior tennis? Like, what have been like the top ways that you guys go about it right now?
I can start. So with building bridges or partnerships, I think with sport or business, anything, it all comes down to partnerships. And so my recommendation would be to, if you're trying to lead a event or bring more awareness to the sport of tennis in your neighborhood or for an organization, find other organizations that are doing it. I think the first step is probably go to, and this goes to anybody, go to your USTA section, because they're going to have some kind of community department that will be able to help get you connected to people in your area. That's going to be, one of the strongest ways to build an event or to get more people involved. And then just grassroots partnerships, making phone calls, emails, connecting, and really it comes down to volunteering constantly. I've seen volunteers that worked for me at the San Diego Open that now have unbelievable jobs in the ATP or WTA that I'm just so proud. They volunteered, they gave their time, they spent their own money, and now they're in positions. And so it just comes down to volunteering and connecting with people.
Thank you, Ryan.
Oh, Michelle, you're on mute.
Sorry. Anyone else have any other questions before we wrap this up?
Are you
Going
gonna
once? Oh, yes, Michael, go ahead.
you have AAPITA does events all over the country, right? You have like one LA and New York, and you have the one in US Open, and also
Yes, we have our marquee event at the US Open. It's always on the second Wednesday, which is the quarterfinal day at the US Open, where we celebrate AAPI Day. This Saturday in New York, we USTA Eastern, we are holding a big AAPI gathering at Cunningham Tennis Center, and I know that SoCal is doing some stuff as well this month. You can follow us on the APITA Instagram on all the socials to find out more what we're doing. I think Vanya or one of our other board members, Debbie Smith, she's out in California, and she posts a lot of the events that we have. So we are doing our best to spread the word out there, and I encourage all of you to continue to spread the word. Keep telling your story, keep uplifting, keep taking up the space. And I think we are inspiring the next generation the right way. So I encourage all of you to continue to do it. And I want to again thank you, all the panelists, for sharing your story, sharing your journey, for empowering us in this space in tennis and Asian representation, which matters so much. So thank you, everyone, for coming on to this panel and joining us. Happy AAPI month, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Michelle, too.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.